This is probably the most messed up thing in One Piece. On the surface, it's a series about dreams, adventure, happiness, and romance, but not in the romantic sense, more like the second definition of romance, look it up. And I'm not questioning that One Piece is probably one of, if not the most optimistic story I've ever read, but I will say that the way Eiichiro Oda achieves that optimism is kinda messed up. Because Oda is a firm believer that you can't experience the highest of highs without also going through the lowest of lows. And so what he does, no doubt in his dark, dank story dungeon, is continuously concoct new and innovative, sickening ways to torture his characters. And he does this so that when the good story things happen, it feels unbelievably euphoric. How can you experience happiness without knowing sadness? Because without that comparative feeling, happiness has no meaning. And I would argue that the happiest moments in One Piece all revolve around the smile of one Monkey D. Luffy. It's absolutely infectious and nigh on impossible not to smile along with our Joy Boy. No other facial expression can compete with it. And that's very much why Oda chooses not to compete with it. When Oda needs to show a stark contrast to Luffy, he doesn't use something else like a frown or a scowl. No. The purest of evil in One Piece is always delivered to us through smiles. Subverted smiles that twist their original meaning and outright threaten the ideology of Luffy, Roger, the Will of D, and even the author himself. There comes a point where you realize something very sinister about One Piece, which is that most of the villains have the same goal as our heroes. They just go about reaching those goals very, very differently. Because in One Piece, smiles are an indication of joy, but also a sign of the utmost pain and suffering. And the bleak truth is that no matter who comes out on top at the end of the series, the world is going to be smiling regardless. For example, here is a quote from a racist cat. Apparently, there was a figure that slaves would pray to in the long distant past. A legendary warrior they believed would one day free them. The sun god Nika. Did he exist, or did they dream him up? They thought he'd bring smiles to their faces and deliver them from suffering. This, of course, is the sun god Nika, aka the Joy Boy, aka the Luffy Boy. And Who's Who here is directly linking the concept of liberation and smiles. It's also interesting to note that the word Nika itself roughly translates to toothy grin. So his name is basically Smile, but our cat continues. Also, this fictional pirate content is sponsored by Dungeon Hunter 6, the stunning fantasy unique hero collector ARPG with fast-paced hack-and-slash combat to utilize against bosses, like really big bosses. It's absolutely free to play. You can download it now using the link in the description, or you can scan the QR code on screen if you're viewing it on PC. And here's why you should, because in this game, killing bosses is not the end. Nay, it's the not end, the beginning, that's what I meant. Because you can then summon your conquered foes to become your squad members, make them follow you, perform perfect combo skills, and even shapeshift into them to harness the ultimate of powers. Speaking of, there's a lot of creative design in this game. For example, you can shapeshift into a cat to perform stealth missions, if that's your thing. Plus, Dungeon Hunter 6 takes graphics to a whole new level, with the most stunning and smoothest of animations on mobile devices. With a wide array of other features such as playing with guildmates, a variety of skill tree options, and trading via the auction system, you can download the game for free on Android or iOS using my link in the description, or scan the QR code on screen if you're viewing it on a PC to get a free special starter pack worth $50 dues, including 10 summoning scrolls, 1 SSR Lieutenant Demonic Wolf, and an accessory pack. Plus, you can use your game account to enter the Launch Lucky Spin event for free, with great prizes such as the iPhone 15 Pro Max, PlayStation 5s, Apple Watches, and even more starting on October 15th. So let's all thank Dungeon Hunter for sponsoring our addiction to fictional pirates. But for now, it's back to you, me. But our cat continues. My time in prison felt so endless. I actually clung to that strange legend of theirs. Save me, I thought. Someone. Anyone. Which is a perfect microcosm of One Piece. Almost everyone in this world is in the same situation as Who's Who. They're all living in some form of imprisonment, whether it's under the rule of an emperor or warlord, or most commonly the notoriously corrupt world government. And this has created a sense of desperation. Save me, I thought. Someone. Anyone. And that anyone right there is the key. The people of this planet are so desperate that they will turn to anyone for the promise of a smile, aka liberation. And knowing this, the forces of not-so-goodness take advantage of it and subvert the very concept of a smile. Think about how amazing it was when we first landed on Dressrosa, the land of love, passion, and toys. Everyone was happy, and so were we until we found out how those smiles were being made. This is the absolute genius of Eiichiro Oda. He always finds new and frankly disturbing ways to subvert the basic concept of a smile. A very early series example would of course be Buggy, which at this stage is a classic pop culture twist to have a clown be the villain. Someone intended to bring joy and smiles to others, but instead he's doing doing a whole lot of, well, not that. But in his own way, he is searching for the One Piece. The ultimate goal of the series, and regardless of what it actually is, we know what it does, which is much more important. Because what did Roger do when he found it? He laughed. Every villain is searching for their own personal One Piece. That's the end goal. The laughter, the smile, and the sigh of relief. And whether they know it or not, most of the villains in the series are essentially failed Joy Boys. Characters who tried, and in some cases succeeded, to build their own utopias, but they always go horrendously wrong. For example, Arlong. The entirety of Arlong Park is based on Sabati Park, which brought him joy and wonder as a child. And what he wants to do is build a world where he and his fellow fishermen can live in peace. But the only way he sees fit to achieve that dream is via the subjugation of all humans. And to be fair to Arlong, it's not hard to understand why he thinks this way, because for his entire life, the most major problem in this world has been how humans treat fishermen. So, what if we strip those humans of their rights and we just took over the world? That's a problem solved. There'd be no problems to solve, because we'd solved that one, and that was the only one. And of course, Arlong is almost always shown smiling, which is a direct challenge to Luffy. Two characters with the same facial expression, but carrying entirely different meanings. And it's a very common trait amongst antagonists that can be plonked in the failed Joy Boy bin. And someone else we definitely need to throw out is Sir Crocodile, someone who did once dream of becoming the Pirate King and finding the One Piece. And after giving up on that more pure dream, he moved on to a much more warped version. His whole plan was named Operation Utopia, so his desire to destroy a kingdom was given the name of a theoretical location where everything was perfect. One of the most horrific plans in the series, but given such a delightsome positive name. Furthermore, he implemented this plan by winning the hearts and smiles of the Alabasta people. It was all entirely staged, but then again, just like Husu said, this world needs someone, anyone. And in this case, Crocodile was the anyone. Something else interesting about Crocodile, the scar on his face. This is no accident. This particular type of scar is known as a crocodile smile, which is also a term used to describe a fake or insincere smile, which describes Crocodile's entire alabaster arc perfectly. And in world, we can thank Whitebeard for that. Whitebeard didn't just scar Crocodile, he wrote an unauthorized biography of Crocodile right on his face for all of us to read. But again, another failed Joy Boy with very grim links to smiles. I really cannot emphasize just how obsessed Eiichiro Oda is with smiles, but I'm gonna try. The first character many of you likely thought of is Don Quixote Doflamingo, a very special boy because he is the exact opposite of our heroes with the will of D. Doflamingo is the god that they are the enemy of, so it's particularly sinister when he subverts the smile. In fact, Doflamingo is much more blatant than most. His Jolly Roger is a crossed out smile that means anything but joy whenever or wherever in the world we see it, like at the human auction house on Sabati, which is run by Doflamingo, one of the most horrific locations on the planet, and it's branded quite proudly with a smile. And Doflamingo is one of the rare antagonists whose utopia vision did succeed. He managed to create his own personal paradise. This was achieved by turning a vast quantity of the population of Dressrosa into toy slaves, toys which make the country seem so magical and wonderful, like living in Disneyland. But behind all of those smiles are the tragedy of those who were ripped away from their lives and their families. The really horrific thing here is that the smiles of the remaining people are genuine, because they don't know the truth of what's going on. For the most part, they do actually believe that they are living in utopia, blissfully unaware of what they've fallen victim to. But Doflamingo himself is also a victim. His smile, like ever so many in the One Piece world, is the result of tragedy. Not to excuse anything he did, but Doflamingo had a pretty horrific childhood once his father took him down to the surface. And Doflamingo's near permanent smile is a scar of that trauma, a scar that he would then go on to inflict on others, many others. And fun fact, Doflamingo's least favorite food is barbecue because it reminds him of that one time when he was almost barbecued as a child, which I shouldn't find funny, but I do. You could even look at his crew one by one and determine how they each seek smiles. Baby 5 is a pretty obvious example, willing and able to do everything just for the feeling of being needed. And when she was about to kill herself, she did so with a smile. And then you have a character like Senor Pink, an antagonist for all intents and purposes, but one whose only real mission in life is to see his wife smile again. Hence why he dresses as a baby, because it made her smile that one time. Senor Pink is actually a great metaphor for One Piece as a whole. Underneath all of this insanely wacky, goofy stuff is a heartfelt core with a single mission: to make us all smile. And then there's Big Mom. Her ultimate dream is to unite all of the world's races and live together in paradise. Sounds lovely. What a wholesome dream. What could possibly go wrong? Well, there is just one little asterisk to paradise, which is that in this case, to live in Totterland, you need to pay an annual tribute, which is part of your soul, like literally your soul, which then gets taken by Big Mom and turned into a homie, a variety of living objects that do nothing but smile and reassure everyone that everything's going okay. decay as you slowly wither and die. Not slowly, actually, quickly. That's the one I meant, because your soul is being torn to pieces. Plus, almost everyone lives in utter fear that at any given moment, Charlotte Linlin could have a bit of a tantrum, unleash her inner hunger demon, and cause an apocalypse. Everyone's still smiling, but it's out of fear. Because if they stop smiling, if for a moment they stop pretending that this is paradise, then there's no telling what sort of horrific future awaits them. And Charlotte Linlin is of course based on the Disney Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland, who also has uncontrollable mood swings. Although in the story, the Queen of Hearts forbids anyone who is a mile high to live in her kingdom, whereas Big Mom desperately wants to include anyone who is. It's her whole mission to get the giants in there. And that's another classic example of Oda's writing style. He takes an established device, trope, trait, whatever. He takes the thing, a thing that exists, and then he says, what if this thing was the exact opposite? And then he does it a lot. Hence why he's always looking for a new way to flip the traditional meaning of the simple smile, with Big Mom being yet another failed Joy Boy in this quest. But Whole Cake Island also has a lesser studied failure. Vinsmoke Judge of the Germa Kingdom implemented his plan even earlier than most and augmented his children before they were even born. To create his perfect world, he removed their sympathy and their empathy. So now the Vinsmoke siblings are almost always smiling, but it's a hollow smile, because they don't actually feel anything. This is just how they were genetically designed to be. Again, smiling through subjugation rather than freedom. The Vinsmoke siblings do have agency, but Judge robbed/restricted them of their emotion, also that he could create his perfect family. And when the Vinsmokes were about to be murdered by the Big Mom pirates, Ichiji, Niji, and the other one all smiled and laughed, ha 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 ha. Judge himself couldn't even understand what was going on here because he was bawling his eyes out, which is not very Joy Boy, it's more like sad man, very sad man. And Judge in general isn't a very happy guy. However, early concept art of Judge showed that he was going to follow in the footsteps of ever so many villains before him. He was going to be a Machiavellian smiling schemer, appearing to challenge the meaning of the smile. But look, we're forgetting the most obvious one. The smile fruit. This one is pretty blatant, but the smiles are an abomination of science. Artificial devil fruits created in the quest to replicate Zoan powers. And yeah, we didn't quite get there, but we still ran with what we had, which was not great. They either grant you questionable animal-based powers like having a lion crotch or becoming a chicken butt. That is the best case scenario. But in the 90% of cases where smiles don't work, it leaves its consumers cursed, forced to smile and laugh for the rest of their lives. Such as Toko when she watched her father get murdered and could do nothing but laugh the entire time. The fruits themselves are described pretty viscerally as follows. The smiles that the people of Abisu wear are actually masks. Masks that they can never remove for the rest of their lives. And after seeing the particular misfortune of those who were unlucky, the masterminds chose to name the concoction in mockery of their condition. Thus, the smile fruit. And at this point, it's not even media analysis anymore. This is the author turning one of the major themes of the story into a technical power system. Villains like Doflamingo and Caesar Clown are quite literally using smiles. They are fighting with and for smiles. Also, the smile fruit can only be made through the production of a substance called SAD. Potentially an acronym for something, but it's never explained, and it doesn't need to be. All we need to know is that they are creating artificial smiles filled with SAD, which on a metaphorical level is what every other major villain is doing. The smile fruit idea was very likely inspired by the Joker venom from good old Batman, with those exposed to the venom often dying from extreme fits of uncontrollable laughter, with corpses freezing and retaining that smile. Very Will of D, but in the worst way possible. Pretty horrific, but if anything, that's almost merciful compared to Oda's version. In One Piece, the characters exposed to this exist in a world where they need to live on in perpetual hell, smiling and laughing the whole time. The primary lens which we see it through being a child. But the Batman inspiration is pretty clear, because Buggy's original design, Boogie, very much took after the Joker, and future antagonist Caesar Clown is named after Cesar Romero, who played the Joker in the 1960s Batman. And the One Piece world actually has its very own Batman, who was made via Smile Fruit and is much more literally a Batman. So it all comes full circle. And Buono's Orochi is a very similar villain. I feel like I'm repeating myself here, and I kind of am, but this is what Oda does. Orochi's desire was to create his own utopia, which we see when he kills Yasu, and due to feeding the citizen smile fruit, Orochi says, "That's the spirit, my subjects. Laugh him into the afterlife." This is Buono. Bright, cheerful Wano. You might mistake it for paradise. Here's the thing though, this is depressing and all, but Oda often takes this one step further, because it's not just the forces of evil that can subvert the smile. The will of D is our primary example of this. Even in death and defeat, in the worst situations possible, the smile left by each will of D member lingers on and haunts or inspires those who see it. Oda takes a traditionally tragic concept like death and flips it into a moment of infinite optimism. Roger's execution, Saul's last words to Robin, Ace's thank you to Luffy and the Whitebeard pirates, also tragic and yet also hopeful, promising great things for the future. But the power of a smile can be wielded by anyone. You don't need to be some sort of special fated D person, like Kozuki Oden smiling whilst being boiled alive. He did this knowing exactly what was going to come in 20 years. Or Rocinante's last words to Law, being delivered with a wacky smile, despite knowing that he was about to be killed. On Fishman Island, Manboshi and Ryoboshi forced smiles when Otohime was killed to stop Shirahoshi accidentally destroying the island, which that right there, that's a pretty damn powerful smile. Or quite possibly the most hard-hitting of all is tied to Bink Sake, when we see the Rambar pirates play the song and each of them die singing and smiling one by one until it's just Brook left. Tragic but also hopeful, because they're putting their faith in Brook to deliver that message to Laboon. But One Piece can even take the subverted smiles of the bad guys and repurpose them. When it comes to the smile users, it's interesting to note that they were the only ones converted from Kaido's army. Most, if not all of the gifters changed sides due to Tama's devil fruit. So in the end, the smile fruit came back around to provide genuine smiles and be used for its traditional purpose. One Piece is a battle of smiles. Because as a not so great flamingo once said, pirates are evil, the Marines are righteous. These terms have always changed throughout the course of history. Kids who have never seen peace and kids who have never seen war have different values. Those who stand at the top determine what's wrong and what's right. This very place is neutral ground. Justice will prevail, you say? But of course it will. Whoever wins this war becomes justice. And whoever wins at the end of One Piece, rest assured that the world will be smiling regardless.